short story, a great lesson. A small idea can have a big impact. Promise me as you watch, think deeply. Once upon a time, there was a young man named Robert who lived in an ordinary family. His father, known as Poor Dad, was a diligent civil servant, while his mother was a housewife. Robert's father often told him, "Go study hard, find a stable job, save money, and eventually you'll be able to live a comfortable life after retirement." However, Robert had another father, his best friend's father, known as Rich Dad. Rich Dad wasn't a government worker, and he didn't rely on a steady salary. Instead, he ran his own business and invested in real estate and stocks. He often told Robert, "If you only rely on a paycheck, you'll never achieve financial freedom. You need to learn how to make money work for you instead of working for money." From a young age, Robert was curious about the contrasting views of these two fathers. Poor Dad's advice seemed conventional, the safe path that everyone seemed to follow. But Rich Dad's philosophy both excited and confused him. So, Robert decided to learn from both fathers and find his own answers. In Robert's eyes, Poor Dad was a model citizen. Poor Dad had a stable job, earning a steady paycheck each month. He lived a frugal life, always saving money, believing that saving and pension plans were the only ways to accumulate wealth. Poor Dad often said, "I've always told you, Robert, work hard, save money, and maintain financial stability." But as time passed, Robert noticed that despite Poor Dad's hard work and steady income, he never seemed to live the wealthy life he desired. Poor Dad often talked about debts, taxes, and the rising costs of living. Whenever he tried to raise his standard of living, he found himself trapped by the limitations of a fixed salary. His goal seemed to be merely maintaining the status quo, not creating wealth. In stark contrast, Rich Dad's approach opened Robert's eyes. Rich Dad didn't rely on a salary. Instead, he earned money by investing in real estate, stocks, and running his own business. He wasn't concerned with a paycheck every month because he knew that true wealth didn't come from wages, but from assets. Robert, real wealth isn't dependent on a salary. It's about owning assets that generate cash flow for you, Rich Dad once explained. You need to learn to distinguish between assets and liabilities. Assets make you money, while liabilities take money from you. So, how do I acquire assets? Robert asked. Rich Dad smiled. You need to learn to invest. Start small, buy some stocks or invest in a small property. Every investment you make is creating wealth for yourself. Under Rich Dad's guidance, Robert began to understand the real difference between assets and liabilities. Rich Dad explained that many people mistakenly believe their house is an asset, but in reality, only when a house generates cash flow for you does it become an asset. Liabilities, on the other hand, are things that require you to keep paying credit card bills, car loans, and so on. Rich Dad constantly reminded Robert, remember, the biggest mistake poor and middle-class people make is using their income to buy liabilities instead of assets. Gradually, Robert acquired his first asset, a small house which he rented out. Although he didn't earn much at first, he was excited because he began to grasp the principle of wealth growth, that it's all about creating passive income from assets. Influenced by Rich Dad, Robert no longer relied solely on his job income. He began experimenting with entrepreneurship, starting his own small company. As he continued to learn and grow, Robert expanded into various forms of investment, real estate, stocks, and other businesses. Through constant learning and practice, Robert began to understand how to assess risks, manage cash flow, and create even more passive income. If you don't start investing, you'll never get rich, Rich Dad emphasized. Wealth is created by those who dare to take risks, learn, and put their knowledge into practice. Over time, Robert became wealthier. He not only owned several properties but also ventured into the stock market and entrepreneurial investments. His income came not only from his business but increasingly from his assets and the passive income they generated. Robert achieved financial freedom. He no longer depended on a traditional salary but had multiple income streams. Eventually, Robert summarized his life philosophy. True wealth comes from creating a stable cash flow through investment and asset management, not from simply relying on wages and savings. As Rich Dad taught him, make money work for you, not the other way around. In the story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert learned valuable lessons from both of his fathers and ultimately found his own path to financial freedom. Poor Dad and Rich Dad represented two very different ways of thinking, and the real key to wealth is not just working and saving, but managing and leveraging assets. As Rich Dad often said, wealth is created by constantly learning, investing, and making money work for you. This is a story about shifting your mindset and striving for financial freedom, an inspiration for anyone to achieve their own wealth-building journey through financial education. Thank you all for watching and supporting. If you enjoyed this story and found it inspiring, please give it a like. If you want to see more stories, please subscribe to my channel. See you next time.